Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
back on the broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and welcome to a listener questions and witchy answers episode.
And I'm Chelle, and I think we all just need to take a moment and pause. This is the last episode of my 40s.
This episode comes out the day before your birthday, and I am very excited to celebrate you for the entire day. And I know it's the last day of May, but I think that just means because, you're a Gemini, we get to celebrate you all of May and all of June.
Save the best for last, right?
So that just means you get all the goodness, the wonderful spring part, the summer part, all of it.
That always has been a thing. Like, I didn't realize that a lot of the world didn't think that summer started at the end of May. I always had, like, if it's my birthday, it's now summer. Boom.
Well, I think for most of America, Memorial Day weekend, even though it's a kind of a somber holiday because we're remembering those who have fallen in service to our country, it's still kind of the unofficial kickoff to summer. It's a lot of people's, first barbecue of the season and time to get out and start celebrating summer, at least in America.
Well, Layla, could you just really be honest with folks for a minute and tell them the real truth, which is
they're celebrating Chelle.
Well, obviously, duh. But when you're from the Northeast, yeah, we talk about spring and fall and we pretend like they're these prolonged things, but there's really winter and summer. It's either snowing or 100 degrees.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the Celts here. It's just two seasons.
Yeah.
I would love to say that spring is wonderful and beautiful, but yeah, it's mostly just in theory.
It's like 4 days long.
Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, celebrating Chelle. I am very excited that it's your birthday. People have been sending in emails. They've been sending messages on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for wishing Chelle happy birthday. If you want to leave more comments, check the show notes. You can email us. You can send us real mail at our P.O. box if you'd like to. But if you would like to wish Chelle a happy birthday, send her a message. She'd love to hear it. Thank you guys.
It really feels like I have like hundreds of friends. Like these messages are just wonderful. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And you're all just pretty swell folks. I love you all.
All right, you witchy people, other than sending in well wishes and happy birthday messages to Chelle, you've also been busy sending us some questions. And as per usual, we are kind of backed up on that. So we've decided to do another Witches Answer episode and get to some of your questions that we think everyone might benefit from hearing an answer to.
I love these because I feel like it's kind of a way to be interactive with everybody, even though they're not here with us in the moment. And I love the questions, and we always get really awesome questions, and we do get a lot, and it's hard to choose which ones to do on air. Sometimes, honestly, we do like random draw because it's so difficult. But even if we don't answer your question this time on air, we have read them. And we promise to the best of our ability, we will try to get back to you. We've said this before. We are just two people. We don't have a crew. We don't have a posse. It's Layla and Chelle all the way through and through. So we will get back to you. I promise. I just can't give you a timeline.
So I'm actually going to address this real quick, and then I promise we'll get into the questions. But we did have an email not too long ago of someone who's offered to help because they had heard us mention before that it's just the two of us. And oh my gosh, I love the idea of having a little bit of help. But yeah, this podcast is not professional by any stretch of the imagination. Chelle's in a bathrobe. I'm in my basement. We just hang out and talk about witchy things to each other and love having all of you guys along for the ride. But we have real jobs and other things outside of this. This is kind of just a hobby. This doesn't make us any money. We don't have any training in this. We kind of learned all of it on the fly. So we're having a ton of fun with it. Don't get me wrong, but this is just two very adventurous newbies.
You are so humble because you are the biggest techno geek, and I'm the comedy here. Like you are the techno princess and
queen. Thank you.
Myself and all the listeners appreciate everything that you do.
Well, yes, now that we've patted ourselves on the back for what an awesome job that we have done as techno witches, kind of out here on the
I want
airwaves,
to answer questions.
let's get to some witchy questions. All right, guys.
Okay. This question is from Sabrina. She says that she's fairly new to witchcraft. She's been soaking in all the information that she can, practicing small things here and there. She says that our podcast has been a big part of her journey. Thank you, Sabrina. We appreciate that. One of her children will be going on vacation with her sister and her family soon. He's never been away from her for that long, and she would like to do a protection spell for him as well as the rest of them. She does trust her sister. I get it. I got sisters. I totally get it. But you'd be more at ease if you could give them a little extra protection. I get that too. Nothing wrong with being a mama bear and wanting your kids protected, your sister, her family. She's asking, do we have an easy protection spell for a beginner witch?
Absolutely. We've got you. I know you've got something up your witchy sleeve, Shell. And I have a couple ideas of things that we do in my family.
I love trinkets. I love things.
Yeah.
Shiny things please me. I must have been a fairy in another life. I am all for carrying crystals. I am all for amulets, whether that be in the form of a necklace or a ring or whatever. I do like temporary body art, a henna tattoo of a sigil. I know that doesn't necessarily work for everybody and might not be appropriate for small children, but that's generally my go-tos if I were in this particular situation. My daughter went away to school several years back. Geez, she's a full-grown adult now. But she had gone away to school, and I had actually gotten coffin nails and put them in her car to protect her when she was driving back and forth from school because she was about an hour and a half away from home. So I'm big on amulets or crystals or something magical. Like I said, the coffin nails, whatever works best for you. The thing with coffin nails is they were used to create spiritual barriers and ward off negative energies, entities, and influences. Some people would put it on their property or bury it somewhere on their property, but it can also be used as a protection and a ward and a barrier in, say, your moving car.
I'm not surprised that you use coffin nails because you've talked a lot about your Pennsylvania Dutch heritage and folk magic. And I know in a lot of Appalachian traditions, as well as other hoodoo, conjure, other type of folk magic traditions as well. But particularly in Appalachian magic, I know that one of the many uses of coffin nails is for protection. So putting them in a vehicle makes perfect sense.
You can easily catch me with, a stone or a crystal in a pocket, a bra, wherever.
Something like black tourmaline for protection with maybe a sigil on it. I love that you said trinkets because that's exactly what I was going to say too. My family travels a lot. My children travel, we travel together. So we actually have specific trinkets. If we're all going together, we'll usually each carry a trinket with us that we've carried before. One of them in particular, it looks like a small coin and it has a tree on one side, and on the other side it says family. We have like four different things that we'll use, but that's one of them that we'll use. So we almost have like this little tradition where when we are saying goodbye to the person who's leaving, we will make sure one of us to give them one of the trinkets that we have charged in the past with travel protection. And because we've used them so often, we don't even need to do a full ceremony with those anymore. Just the familiar ceremony of saying goodbye and giving someone the protection trinket is enough to activate the spell. Because again, metals, jewelry, crystals tend to hold spells very, very easily. You can even involve the child in that. If there's a trinket that they like, even a teddy bear or a blanket will hold a spell for a short period of time. Or if you can put a knot around, like maybe a scarf around a teddy bear or a knot in a blanket to hold a spell. That can be a very simple way to charge an item with protection for someone who's traveling.
Okay, I'm famous for left turns. I totally need I need to interrupt you and stop you and take a left turn.
Love it. Where are we going?
Okay, this is another case of how you and I are so damn similar. It's frightening. So you said you had a coin with a tree on it, and what
Yeah,
does it say? What does it say on the back?
family.
Okay, funny story. So me and my sweet love, we actually at one point several years ago, when we were not living together, got coins. And I have it right here. On one side is a tree, but on the back side, mine says, "May you know nothing but happiness from this day forward."
It looks very similar to mine.
We are two peas in a damn pod, ma'am.
I know. I love that. I love that.
So when you said that, I was like, "Oh my God, I have a tree coin too."
We have a few of them that we use since the girls were little, and we still do. And again, it's kind of part of a little bit of a ceremony. And when each trinket was kind of chosen, we would do a ritual, a little spell to charge it specifically with protection. But again, because they've been used so many times for that, we don't really need to do that anymore.
Sometimes it's not necessarily a thing or a trinket. It can be just a idea or a thought because, and I sometimes bother you with this when I'm with you and, my sweet love and my children at nausea. I am one of those people that I don't care if it's in your face and I know damn well you see it. I am going to be, "Hey, look at the moon." I'm literally one of those people. And I would drive my kids nuts, especially because they both did sports and, band and theater. So we were out every night. And every night, "Look at the moon, kids." Both of my kids have told me that there's been times, because, all three of us actually live in three different states, that they felt safe when they looked at the moon because they thought of mom. So sometimes it's a thought more than a trinket or what have you.
I taught my girls a charm when they were very, very little, and it's dumb. It's the dumbest rhyme ever. Earth, air, fire, and water. This house is safe, safe for a witch's daughter. Makes no
Oh, I
sense,
love that.
right? And, we have this little sing-songy way of saying it. And I've done that with them since they were very, very little. When they would go to bed and they were scared of the monster under the bed or the boogeyman in the closet or when the plane was taking off and they were worried about it. Because we've done that as a charm of protection anytime they were worried, even as teenagers, and now one of them is in her early 20s, they still say that charm. They'll whisper it to themselves or they'll think it over and over in their head if they're walking down the street and they're a little scared or, if they feel like there's a little bad energy in a space, that's a charm that they will automatically go to and it clears the energy immediately. Again, because it's something they've used so often. It was a powerful charm when they were little. It's still a powerful charm now.
I love that.
Yeah, and energy, before we get off this question, I just want to say that this is a wonderful time also to practice long distance energetic use because learning to use energy on yourself for someone else with someone else's permission to shield and to use that energy to create an energetic bubble of protection around them is a vital part of working with energy, of working with magic. And so this is an excellent time to learn to project that energy to your child. You don't have to give them anything. You could just say, every day at 1 o'clock, I'll be thinking about you. And then think about that person and surround them. Construct that beautiful bubble of energy around them in light and love and protection and for their best good. And then practice that. Practice drawing that energy up into you and projecting it to that person to give them that protective bubble, that protective shield. And that's a great way to protect them at a distance and also to help you to work with energy and to learn to work with energy more strongly.
Funny story about that. I did the same thing with my children growing up. And I literally, my son, he's in his late 20s, and Lord, that pains me to say. I can give that boy like that evil mom look from 200 miles away, and he sees it.
Oh, I believe it. I
Oh,
believe
he
it.
sees it.
They feel that energy. They do. They do.
It's like, "Oh man, my mother is just, she knows, and she's not even here." Like I can give him that look from afar.
Mhm. So there's a bunch of ideas. And like Chelle said, as a mother, you are connected. You have a unique energetic connection with this being that you nurtured, you have raised, you have grown, you have a bond with this person. And you can utilize that bond to send them beautiful, wonderful, loving energy or to yell at them across distance like Chelle does.
All right, what's question number two, Layla? Give it to us.
All right, question number two we have. Okay, so this message came from Sandra, and she says, I have my misgivings with the spirit world.
Don't we all?
Right? I feel that the veil is there for a reason. Oh, yeah. She says, as a solitary, I have avoided communing with spirits or having anything to do with mediumship. Is this okay? Do you have to commune with spirits to be a witch?
No.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. No, Sandra, no, you do not. Answer's done. Next question? No. So, yeah, no, you do not have to do anything with mediumship to be a witch. None at all. I think you should get comfortable with the idea of it, but do you have to work with them? No. This question, Sandra, you say as a solitary, you've avoided communing with spirits or having anything to do with mediumship. That strikes me as worry or fear, and I would hope that that's not the case. But do you have to work with them? No. But I also would not want you to be afraid of them. I'm not saying don't work with them because there's a fear there. I'm saying you don't have to if you don't want to. But if there's a fear there, I would hope that you would maybe learn more about that, work with that a little bit.
I think that for people who are reluctant and maybe want to like dip their toes into it and not go all full spirit contact, try to connect with a relative that has passed that you had a connection with. My go-to would be a grandparent or maybe someone closer. But sometimes I think that reluctancy comes from fear. It's like the ocean. If you don't know what's there and you can't see it, it's scary?
That's a very good point. I also do want to emphasize that you do not need to. If you don't want to, you just don't want to for any reason. You do not have to work with any type of spirits of people or energies, any of that. You do not have to work with any of that to be a witch.
There aren't rules like that. Come on
No,
now.
none whatsoever. Shell and I are big proponents of learning as much as you can. I don't want you to be afraid of any of these things. We would like you to learn and know as much as you can about it so that you can be educated and make a decision that way rather than through fear.
And learning and knowing doesn't necessarily mean practicing.
Correct.
I have learned some things that I was like, all right, moving on, take the best, leave the rest.
Right.
I say be familiar enough, but if you are not comfortable with it and you do not like it, then know what you need to know and walk away and be done.
Yep. Mediumship spirits are different to me than land entities, than land spirits, than nature energies and nature spirits. And you don't have to work with them to be a witch either. Although, in my personal opinion, I think that would be extremely difficult because my brand of witchcraft and what I very strongly believe paganism and witchcraft is very deeply connected to all life, to the earth and to living things and to all the cycles of this beautiful, wonderful place. So I think that would be very difficult, but obviously it can be done. There are people who do it. So yeah, you can be any kind of witch you want. You don't have to work with any energies you don't want to. But I do think learning about it so you don't have to be afraid is wonderful.
I totally agree. And, I think that maybe the method in which you do it or give it a try is also going to be key.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. All right. So next question is a very short question, and I think it has a very long answer.
Okay, Tina. Now, few words, big response. What study would you advise to help open your third eye? Okay,
Ooh.
okay.
Okay, first, for anyone out there who doesn't know what your third eye is, third eye is something that came from it's an idea that came from mostly Hinduism and Buddhism. And it refers to a spot on your forehead, just above and between your eyes, in the middle of your forehead, essentially. And that corresponds to, it's a chakra, the ajna. I'm probably saying that wrong. I apologize. Is AJNA or brow chakra.
I literally have always just called it my head chakra, just saying.
There you go. Forehead chakra, whatever you want to call it. It's metaphorical and it's called sometimes, quote, the eye of introspection. A lot of people will say you have two eyes to look outward and one eye, your third eye, to look inward. When you awaken that eye, the idea is that you have had a deeply personal and transformative experience, that you are able to access insights about yourself, insights about personal understanding, your place in the universe, or at least, a little taste of that as you start to open up your third eye. It's supposed to help you look inward, and it can be very deeply spiritual and very deeply meaningful. So activating that can really open your psychic abilities. It can open up your magical abilities. It can help you with meditation. It can help you with a lot of magical practices. So quite a few witches will work with the idea of opening their third eye to help them activate that magical energy and that beautiful insight that can give them access to more of their potential, more of their witchy selves, I guess.
And I'm glad you mentioned the last piece because I was worried you were going to stay with the introspection part because I have never really utilized my third eye for introspection work. That is such a me thing, by the way. Don't do as Shell says, but because I am able to open my third eye, I can utilize that to kind of, I don't know a better way to say it, but get myself there, whether it be in alpha or in that magical, it's time to do ritual, it's time to honor or whatever the case may be. That has kind of always been, I close my eyes and kind of look out my third eye into, I don't want to say the magical world, but the
Yeah.
magical world.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially witches and magical practitioners, will use some form of breath work or meditation to activate that third eye. And just like you said, not to sit there and be introspective and look at themselves or do shadow work, although you can do that, but more to activate their magical brain and to get into that being able to see those magical currents of energy and feel
Yeah.
that that magic is active within you and that you're connected to all of that.
Now, how to? Read 10 books, get 10 different answers. I think for me, it really it started with meditation and continually doing things like, the crystal cave meditation. Think of when you wake up in the morning and your eyelashes kind of flicker, but your eyes aren't quite open yet. And then, you just kind of peek open. I think that consistent meditation is what got my little eyelashes and my third eye flickering and kind of waking up the eye. And now I can kind of do it on command. So I think repetitiveness, what do they say? You do something 21 times and it becomes habit. Meditation is what kind of got me to flickering that eye open.
Meditation and breath work is definitely a great way to do it. So, the best way to visualize it is when you're sitting down and you're meditating, close your physical eyes and then focus on the center of your forehead. And some people will even, I believe we did it in the meditation that we posted not too long ago. We talk about when you breathe in, imagine that air coming in through the center of your forehead. And if you have trouble visualizing that, one thing you can do is lay down and take a small crystal, take a piece of lapis lazuli or take a clear quartz and place that on the center of your forehead. Then close your eyes. And as you do the meditation, focus on the cool stone. You'll be able to feel it sitting on your forehead, the weight of it right there. Look at it with your eyes closed. That'll kind of cross your eyes, and you'll essentially look at that center part of your forehead, and you'll begin to feel it activated just by the weight of that stone and looking internally at that spot. And then just start to work with that. Do your meditations of third eye openings. Breathe and feel the breath come through that chakra, through that energy center. The more you work with that, the more you awaken that eye. It'll start to become very easy. You'll be able to do it on command. But sometimes it's easier to have a crystal there, some type of physical sensation to help you visualize the not
Opening.
physical, visualize a not physical eye.
Now, then is the then what piece. And I think the then what piece is really up to you as an individual. You get to that point where you literally feel that eye open. What do you see? Where does it take you? It never took me to introspection. That is a shell issue, apparently. But, maybe it takes you to introspection. Maybe it takes you to a different magical place. Maybe it takes you to communicating with spirit. You've got to figure out what that looks like for you when, what do you see in the morning when you open your eyes? Same thing. What do you see when you open that eye?
Right.
I can't necessarily tell you what you're going to see when you open that eye because it's probably different than what I saw or what you saw or what the next person's going to see. What do you see when you open that eye? You just got to open it and kind of work with it and get a feel for how do you feel? Where do you feel you're at? Do you feel like this is a work on yourself or greater magical workings?
For me, it feels more like awakening my active magical brain, awakening that part of myself that is in touch with energies and with currents of magic. And so opening that eye allows me to see those energies and to see that magic much more clearly.
I'm going to say something that is so unexpected of me.
What's that?
This might be something you should journal. Oh my God, did I say that?
Wow. Yes, you did say that. Holy cow.
You know,
Maybe this birthday is making you more wise.
I would say you should record this because I may never say it again. But you know
We
what? You
are.
are.
I'm so smart. I recorded it.
But no, I definitely think this is one of those things that might be best journaled because it is a process and you may have a different experience each time as you're opening that third eye. So yeah, it pains me, it kills me. And I know everybody's giggling at me, but journal.
If you are into smokable spells, make yourself a little smokable joint, little cannabis, little mugwort, maybe a little blue
I
lotus,
don't even know why, and I'm in.
and smoke that when you do your meditation. Put your lapis lazuli right on your third eye, have a few puffs of your herbal spell, lay back and have the idea of opening that third eye and just look at the crystal that's on your forehead. And that'll help you visualize that. And like Chelle said, afterwards, journal everything you felt. Journal what you saw. Journal the things that you thought. Do that for, what'd you say, 21 days?
21 days, they say
There you go.
it's permanent habit after that.
All right. So, what's our next question? We've got this is a little bit longer one. This is from Samantha. And Samantha says that a couple years ago, she was feeling some discontent and she was looking for spiritual connection, like a lot of us do. And she kept being pulled back to witchcraft because witchcraft is amazing. So, I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
surprised. And she was reading all the things, looking for experts, and found Back on the Broomstick, which we're very happy for. We're so glad you're here. She says, I feel like you're my family, not wise aunties as we are the same age, but really cool cousins. I'll take it.
Preach it, Gen X.
Cousin Samantha's having a little bit of trouble with an insurance company, and insurance companies suck.
I'm already on board for cursing them.
Right? Curse them. She wants to know if she should try a binding spell to prevent denial or something like a prosperity spell to grant her request, and is wondering if we have any insight. She also says if we ever decide to host a retreat or a seminar back on the broomstick boot camp for beginners, she would totally be in.
That's
So
a
would
hell of an
we,
idea.
right? I can't say we haven't ever talked about it. There's nothing technically in the works, but we do talk about it.
Okay, so I have to start off with don't ever listen to me because I am a crazy Gemini, but I understand that you are thinking a binding spell or a prosperity spell. Layla will get to that in a minute. I think that this whole experience really should start off with the itchy asshole spell. This screams itchy asshole spell. I'm telling you. Insurance company, itchy asshole spell. Now, step two, I'm almost torn because I like both of her ideas. But I will say this, I try to keep bindings to special occasions for, as I like to call them, the super douches. You don't want to be doing bindings here and there and everywhere because then you're bound to the whole world. I would say maybe focus more on the positive outcome part of it because you also got to remember kind of negative breeds negative. And, again, we don't want to be bound to everybody on the planet here.
I slightly disagree with Chelle, and not because I have a problem with hexes. I mean, hex the douches. By all means, they deserve it.
I did
However,
say start off with the itchy asshole spell. Come on now.
and that one I kind of don't agree with either. Let me explain why.
All right.
Hexing or itchy asshole spelling large entities is really difficult.
It is, and it's hard to do by yourself.
That's right. We've all heard about the TikTok witches who cursed the moon, and we've all heard about people who try to curse various political entities. We keep trying. But those very often are difficult.
We have to have realistic goals here, people.
Right. Insurance companies are very, very large. If you have the name, if you have one person at that insurance company that is holding you up and you know specifically who's doing it,
Do the itchy asshole spell.
do the itchy asshole spell. Bind them, throw them in the freezer, whatever you need to do to stop that person. However, Insurance companies as a whole are very large entities. And think of magic like pushing things. If you're going to push a stone, you can throw that fucker really far. You can chuck it across a lake if you want to. You got a good enough arm, you can throw that stone really, really far.
But what if it's a boulder?
Exactly. An insurance company is more like a boulder. Yes, you can push that boulder, but it's going to take time. It's going to take momentum. It might take tools. It might take friends. It might take a lot of energy. So I'm going to say save your energy for other things. Don't try to hex the insurance company. What I'm going to say is do a road opener spell. Do something to ease the way for you and to open doors that might otherwise be closed. So I would envision a door opening spell. Literally stand in a doorway, hold the handle of the closed door, and state out loud all obstacles barring my way to health, to unburdened health, to health without financial obligation shall be gone and open. And then open that door with force and say, so be it, or so it is, or by my will, something strong, powerful as you open that door. Do that. Do a traditional road opening spell if you want to. A road opening spell in a lot of Latin American, Caribbean traditions, road opening is specific to those cultures, but the idea of that type of spell is to open the way, is to
Clearing
remove,
the way. Yeah,
clear the way,
clearing the way.
remove blockages, open doors. That's why the opening doors spell I just mentioned could work really well. But the idea is to allow energy to flow smoothly and clearly towards your goal. So that's probably what I would do here for this type of working.
After you do the itchy asshole spell.
Yeah, do the itchy asshole spell because you never know. It's good. Hopefully it'll land on the right person and that'll help. And then do the door opening spell to clear the way for you and for your health and for your goals. And that way it brings the focus back to you and things that you can control and your energy being open rather than trying to stop a very large boulder by yourself.
Yeah, I definitely think in this situation, kind of working on your path, clearing your way is the less energy sucking, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. Set your intentions during a new moon. Work on spells as the moon waxes to grow your health, to grow cooperation with the insurance companies. And then on the full moon, when that power is at its height and at its fullest and at its most strongest strength, then do that spell and open the door and let that energy just flow.
Samantha, I don't like insurance companies. I just itchy asshole spell. Layla will post it. She'll post it.
There you go. So hopefully everything works out well for you and you get what you need. We hope the best for you and that everything works out well there. All right, so on to the next question.
Okay, so we got one more, and this is a little bit of a long one, but a good one. So this is from Kimberly, and Kimberly writes, so I've always been a big ol' atheist, but I really feel like I'm supposed to be working with Venus right now. In retrospect, she's always been the embodiment of my spiritual self, but I never really called it that before. I gave an apple slice to the ocean the other day. Oh my God, I love that. And put a pink candle and some red flowers on my altar, at which point two doves appeared outside the window where my altar is.
Ooh.
But how do I actually work with Venus to accomplish anything? Hold that thought. There's a little more. So that seems like kind of the first part. She continues to write, I am already happily partnered and a mom, so I'm not super interested in that aspect of Venus. Hey, totally get it. But she adores the passionate, slightly androgynous, but very femme mother goddess parts of Venus. And
Hmm.
she's hoping to involve Venus's energy in bringing abundance and luxury back into her life again and to help her achieve her creative goals towards that end. She also wonders, Venus is very Mediterranean, but Kimberly is Hawaiian on the other side of the world. She's wondering if it's even accessible for her to get that Venus energy. I'll get to that in a minute. That I think I have a long-winded answer for. But she wanted us to discuss Venus and ways to work with her, or even go into detail on what it means to work with any particular goddess and how to do it. She also says that we're amazing. And you know what,
Oh.
Kimberly? You are amazing, and we appreciate you writing to us. Okay, so Layla, I'm going to backtrack just a second. So she put out the apple slice in the ocean, put a pink candle and some flowers on her altar. but she's wondering how does she actually work with Venus? So we'll start with that particular question first.
Beautiful. You already are. You just did.
The
That's
box has been
perfect.
checked.
Yeah. Yeah, you instinctually, however you found that information, you know how to work with Venus. She loves fresh flowers, fresh fruits, luxurious scents, music, beauty rituals, rituals of self-love and care. That's perfect. Perfect. And the doves? Perfection. I love that.
That is actually super awesome.
Right? What a great sign. I love that.
Now, the second part is, she said that she's already partnered in a mom, so she's not interested in those particular aspects of Venus, but is interested in other aspects. To that, I say, you don't have to necessarily love or be tied up in every single aspect of every single deity that you work with. That's unrealistic. So, maybe at one phase of time you are into the fertility and love and passion pieces of Venus, and then maybe at another point in your life, it's maybe the mother aspects of Venus. Like people evolve, deities evolve. Like I said before, take the best, leave the rest. If you are not into the sexual aspects of Venus and that what she represents, fine, work with the mother aspects.
The cool thing about Venus and other Roman goddesses is they very often have other names
Right.
to honor different parts of them. So I know that a couple of Venus's names are Venus Felix for her lucky aspect. You can pray to her for good luck. Venus Genetrix for her aspect as a mother, the mother of Rome. Venus Myrcia, I guess because of myrtle, because the plant myrtle is sacred to her. So I don't know anything about that one, but that's one of her names. And Venus Victrix, because she's also the goddess of victory. So you can call to her on one of these names. She has other names as well. So you can call to her specifically with one of these names to talk to her in that aspect if you want to. You do not have to just worship her as love and beauty. But like you said in your message, you like the mother goddess, the passion, the luxuriousness of her. Those are all foundational parts of her that are absolutely wonderful to call upon and to honor in worshiping her.
Also, put things into perspective because there is a lot of love and beauty with being a mom. Maybe it's not the traditional way you think to work with those aspects, but just put it into the perspective and how it relates to you and your particular spot in life. That's what I would do. But this next one, so she's saying Venus is very Mediterranean and she is very Hawaiian. How do you make this work? So, hey Layla, remember that time way back when I spent like a year working with Pele? Kimberly might have heard of Pele before. I think people connect with energies and deities in a way that there is no time and space. There's a lot of answers to this. I'm gonna let you interject, but I don't feel that when it comes to working with deity, time and space play a part in that, if that makes sense.
I agree. Now, to bring this back just a tiny bit to the beginning of your email, Kimberly, you mentioned being an atheist. I'm kind of an atheist myself. I don't
What?
I don't believe that deities are actual human-like beings that walk around. I don't. I do feel that they are energies. They are aspects of humanity, aspects of nature, aspects of the world and of life and the universe that through a lot of different ways have become deity-like.
I literally just covered the ears on my Hecate statue, just so you know.
Now, I'm going to really twist your brain because I do believe in deities in that way, that they are energies, that they have ideas and will and force. Oh, this is a whole other episode because I don't believe that they are actual beings, but I also believe that they are actual energies and entities. So we'll get into that some other time.
Interesting, and we better because I think I have a totally different view and I would love to have this conversation.
However, because of that, I do believe that these energies, that these entities are universal ideas. And learning about Venus, if you feel drawn to learn about her, learn about her. That means she is calling to you. Find out as much as you can about her. There is a wealth of information about Roman deities, particularly Venus. They're
Get a
very
little
popular.
statue.
Get a little statue. There are so many books and information out there that you can find. And I think that's part of the fun and part of the worship is learning as much as you can about these deities, what works for them, and finding what works for you with them. That's part of the joy of it. And that doesn't matter where you are or who you are. In a lot of cases, if this is not your culture, if you're not Roman, maybe you wouldn't want to say that you are an expert in Roman deities and go
Right?
around saying that you are now a high priest of Roman deities and you're going to teach everyone the ways, because that's just not it. But learning about it, worshiping it on your own, finding that relationship within you that works for you and for your practice, absolutely go for it.
I love trinkets, so I would also add in there, I'm also a fan of a good statue. If it were me, would get some things related maybe and have those things on your altar. For example, with Hecate, I have a statue, I have some keys, I have a little thing I made look like a crossroads. I have a statue of the dogs, like I have things that are Hecate like or sacred to her or are associated with her, and I have those things on my altar to kind of bring her to me because, well, I can't go to her right now.
Your question about what does it mean to work with any particular goddess and how to do it, for Chelle, it's gathering those things and creating an altar to them and creating a practice and working with them. And for me, it starts very much with learning about these deities. And I do a lot of reading. I like to research them as much as possible. I like to look at rituals and spells that people have done historically with this deity. And I like to journal a lot of it, how I feel working with them, what resonates with me about their stories, their myths, their folklore. And through doing that, it becomes very apparent what feels right. Just like you did, Kimberly, with your reading and your research, you offered her fresh fruit. That felt right to you. That's something that you learned about her mythology that worked for you, and you felt the energy of that. And you saw that with the two doves that appeared. What a beautiful symbol of Venus with doves that mate for life and are so adorable that way.
I think what my approach was and what worked for me anyway, and I know I'm a weirdo, but with Hecate, it was more like conversations. Like I know
Hmm.
you're such a bookworm and I love you for it, but it was almost like those meditative conversations, like
Yeah.
like we were talking on the phone like best pals, getting to know each
Hmm.
other, and she was whipping my ass into shape. But I kind of more have like those spirit conversations than say, you read first, communicate later. I communicate first, read later.
And that's a wonderful way to do it. Whatever order you do it in, I love that. Sit down in a meditative space, have a lit candle that you can focus on and a journal right there, and ask the deity questions or talk to them. Hey, Venus, how's it going? What messages have you got for me today? And then no matter how silly it feels, just write down whatever you feel, write down whatever comes to you, or just remember whatever comes to you. You probably won't. You should write it down.
No, I remember sometimes like Hecate has given me the mom look before.
There you go. So
Yeah.
you'll remember those things, but have that conversation and write it down. How does it feel? Talk to that deity. Surround yourself with things that remind you of Venus, beautiful fabrics and scents, sensual music,
Flowers. Yep.
flowers and fruits, give yourself grapes and honey and whatever you need to feel
Flowers. Yep.
Venus like, and then talk to her. What messages do you have for me? And then just write it all down, no matter what it is, write it down or pull your tarot cards or your runes or whatever you
Funny
need.
thing. Funny thing. I was just gonna say, we all know I'm not a super fan of oracle decks, but remember that goddess oracle I have that you
Hmm.
got the
Yeah.
used at the, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
I like using those cards as well for connection.
Pull the Venus card and focus on it.
Yeah.
What do you see? What do you feel? What does it make you think of? Write all those things down and do that regularly. For Venus, you could do that every Friday. Do that every Friday in the summer when you feel sensual and beautiful and just try to see how that goes. And also spend that time researching and learning. Maybe reach out to some people that work with Venus or that work with Roman deities and talk to them. Find spaces online where people are talking and discussing these things. But for me, it's a lot of education and hands-on work with the things that they like and with that energy.
I love the hands-on piece.
Oh yeah, it's the fun part. I love the learning piece and the hands-on piece. Give me a book, man, and I'm so there. All right, so one last question, and this was posed by our Facebook discussion group. We have the Back on the Broomstick discussion board group run by the incomparable Helen Jojo, who is
Oh,
amazing.
Helen.
And this is a fabulous group of witches who have all sorts of amazing questions. I'm so sorry I haven't been on lately. I've been having a little bit of a Facebook phobia rash. I don't know. Facebook gives me a rash lately, so I haven't been there much. But I hear that there's a question about we did an episode back in the first year that we were on about AI. Is there magic in AI? And a couple listeners were concerned about what our stance was on AI, particularly in light of the environmental costs and the idea that AI is a thief and steals art. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit and to address that just for a moment.
Now, I would like to start off by saying we've always talked about how you are way more in the know on techno stuff than I am. And I didn't realize, and I don't think I realized till after we did that first episode, the environmental impact of AI. And I almost fell out of my chair when I found out. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm not using that as a defense per se, but I think when we had that first episode and I was glowing over I didn't realize what that meant at the time.
So when people talk about the environmental costs of AI use, what they're talking about is water. And AI, like a lot of other things, relies on servers. And these servers put off a great deal of heat. And so water is used to cool these down. And it's estimated that, say, ChatGPT, for instance, uses about half a liter of water for every 100 words that it produces, which is a lot. But keep in mind,
Really?
yeah, however, this water is not lost. It evaporates and it's reused. So it's a closed system. So they try to reuse a lot of that. It's still a lot of water and it's still a high environmental cost. I'm not trying to excuse this. I'm just trying to tell you what it is. Now, keep in mind that to produce a pair of jeans, it takes 4,000 liters of water. So that's about 800,000 words of AI. Again, I'm not trying to excuse or make any judgments here. I'm just explaining so that you can have an idea.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that there isn't an environmental impact. There is, but I also think that it has been overblown for a lot of different reasons. It's still not good, and it's still a big part of why my AI use is extremely limited. I have even turned it off on Google.
But we as a society apparently do shittier things. Yes, is that what you
I guess I'm just saying keep it in perspective. Like anything, make sure that you know what it's doing. Now, when we first started with that episode, I was not aware of how artists felt about it or what was happening with art back at the time.
Well, it was new back then was the other thing. It's changed since we did those episodes.
Oh my gosh, it has changed so much. It is not even remotely the same. It's so much different. But I've had several conversations with all sorts of different people about AI and the theft of art. And that is also a big concern. There's also the idea that learning, somebody learning, or something like a computer or AI, learning about art and then creating art is not theft.
And see, that's what you and I were doing.
AI itself was trained on art of famous artists and stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
know that.
It comes back to is training on art stealing art? And I don't know. I don't know. So there's a lot about AI that I don't know. And I'm someone who is exposed to AI quite a bit, full disclosure. My husband works in a very high tech field. So he works
You're
quite a
both
bit.
geeks. Huh.
We're both geeks. And so, as part of his job, he has to keep abreast of AI and its capabilities. And so, he works with quite a few of these regularly. So, I see it from a little bit of a different aspect. Does it still bother me? Yes. Have I disabled it on Google? Yes. Is it something that I have stopped using regularly? Yes. Because I am also concerned. So, it's here. AI is here. AI is getting bigger and better at an exponential and kind of scary pace.
Oh my God, it's like the Jetsons and the Terminator are having a baby right now, and it's called 2025.
So I think not knowing about it is not going to stop it, and it's detrimental. But I think there's a possibility in the future where people will have to. I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger part of society. And so I think we all need to kind of figure out how to best deal with it if we want to, because I don't think there's any stopping it. So we did talk about it. We did talk about, is there magic in AI? And something that can aggregate information and that can help you learn information that quickly. I think there's benefits there. I think that could be very interesting. There's also danger of having just one voice. You know, if you do a Google search, say, Google still is kind of controlling what you see, but at least there's a whole bunch of different information. If you do an AI inquiry, it's just one voice. It's just one set of information. Although now there are some where you can get all of the sources that they use to find that information. So I don't know. This is a big, complex question, but what I can tell you is that it's not something that I think Chelle or I use regularly, if at all. But I don't know. I'm not someone who hates AI. I'm not, and I think I can see a lot of good uses for it. So I don't know is the best I can answer that. No, it's not something that we use right now. Yes, it's something that I think has a potential to be extremely dangerous and cause huge problems. I also think it's something that could do great things too. So I don't know. I'm not smart enough for that question. I'm still looking into it.
And I know this doesn't directly answer the question, but I'd also like to point something out. We live in a world that is ever changing more rapidly than it ever has in our lifetime, and we're pretty old. We may have an opinion about something and then learn better, know better, find out better, and change our opinion. So, I know that folks go back and listen to old episodes, but this is a good example of, yeah, we had a conversation about it and then we kind of learned a little bit better. Not that we are really knowing a whole hell of a lot about it, but we learned a little bit better and now maybe have a slightly different opinion. So, this is a good example of how people can kind of change what their views are and change how they think about certain things or topics when you know more and learn more and kind of grow more.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily we went back and forth on the topic. I think it's more we learned more, we grew more, and now we know more, and that's
Yeah.
life right now.
Yeah. And even with that, with something like this topic, you have to keep learning. It's not just learn a little bit and then be done. This is changing all the time. And so we're constantly taking in new information.
It's like in the 90s when computers came out. Remember when computers came out and our parents were
Mhm.
super scared and we are like, oh, this is fun. Not everybody wanted to get on the bandwagon, but it was either like you either learn computers or you get left behind. And I kind of feel like that's the way it is with AI. You got to get accustomed to it or the world is going to leave you behind. But I don't love it either.
Because I have a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, I do see in scientific research and in some of these applications, AI is doing amazing, wonderful things.
It's also the Terminator.
It's also the Terminator. It's also putting people out of business. It's also making the same answers and the same things over and over again and making weird art that creeps people out. So I don't know. I don't know. So I keep trying to learn as much as I can, I guess is all I can say. I'm still learning and still trying to figure all of this out, just like the rest of us.
But we love you.
So we're learning, we're trying to figure it out. Yeah, I'm worried about the environmental impact, but I'm worried about the environmental impact of a lot of things. So yeah, I guess we'll end our questions there. So thank you guys so much for sending in these questions. We love answering
I
them,
got
whether we
birthday cake to go eat.
Yes, you do. And you're going to get a present tomorrow from me. I'm so excited.
Oh, really?
So, all right. Again, thank you guys so much for sending these in. These questions came in on our Facebook Messenger, on Instagram DMs, our email backonthebroomstick@gmail.com, and through the message portal on our website, backonthebroomstick.com. So if you have questions, if you just want to tell Chelle happy birthday, send it on in. We'd love to see it.
We hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your month. And remember, stay wise and stay wicked.
And keep it witchy.